Remember when Saturday morning meant one thing, racing to the TV to catch cartoons on one of only 3 channels? When making a mixtape required sitting by the radio for hours, waiting for that perfect song to play. The 1970s had a distinct rhythm of life that's completely foreign to today's kids. Today, we're exploring 12 uniquely 70s experiences that shaped an entire generation, things that kids today will never understand. Let's start with something that would blow modern kids' minds, having only 3 TV channels to choose from. That's right, just 3. ABC, CBS, NBC, plus maybe PBS if you were lucky. No streaming services, no endless options, no binge-watching entire seasons. You had to physically get up and turn a dial to change channels. No remote control. If you wanted to see what else was on, you walked to the TV and twisted that chunky dial. But here's what kids today can't understand. We actually waited for our favorite shows. If you missed The $6 Million Man on Wednesday night, you missed it. No DVR, no watching it on demand. Saturday morning cartoons were sacred. Kids would wake up early, pour giant bowls of sugary cereal, and spend hours watching Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones. The limited options meant families watched TV together, negotiating what to watch and talking during commercial breaks. Modern kids will never experience that anticipation or family bonding from shared viewing. Making a mixtape in the 1970s was an art form that required patience, dedication, and perfect timing. You'd sit by the radio for hours, waiting for that perfect song. When it started playing, you'd frantically hit play and record, hoping to catch the entire song without the DJ talking over the intro. The timing was never perfect. You'd almost always catch DJ chatter at the beginning or end, and that became part of the mixtape's charm. Each tape told the story of your dedication and that day's radio programming. When cassettes got tangled, which happened regularly, you'd use a pencil to wind them back in. Sometimes you'd lose part of your favorite song, but that was just part of owning music. Creating a mixtape was personal and meaningful. You carefully curated songs for specific people, spending hours perfecting the flow. Giving someone a mixtape was giving them a piece of your musical soul. Modern kids can create playlists instantly, but they'll never understand the anticipation and genuine love that went into making a mixtape from the radio. If you pretended to be Superman or Batman during the 1970s, you probably did it wearing superhero underoos. These weren't just underwear, they were instant costumes that transformed ordinary kids into superheroes. The sets included underwear and undershirts printed to look like actual superhero outfits. For many kids, underoos served dual purposes: practical underwear and the foundation for epic superhero adventures around the house. You could feel invincible just by getting dressed. The designs were remarkably detailed, matching actual comic book costumes. Superman underoos made you feel like you could fly, while Batman versions gave you that dark, mysterious edge. The marketing was brilliant. Underoos, underwear that's fun to wear, became a cultural catchphrase every 70s kid remembers. Modern kids have elaborate costumes, but they'll never understand the simple magic of feeling like a superhero just by putting on your underwear. Record stores weren't just places to buy music, they were social gathering spots and cultural centers for music lovers. You'd spend hours browsing vinyl records, flipping through album covers, and reading liner notes. Store employees were music enthusiasts who could recommend hidden gems. The listening stations were magical. You could actually hear albums before buying them. Headphones connected to turntables let you sample new music and discover artists. Record stores were social spaces where you'd strike up conversations with strangers who shared your musical tastes. You might discover a new band just by overhearing someone's conversation. The experience was tactile and immersive. Album covers were large canvases for artwork, and the physical act of placing a needle on vinyl was part of the music ritual. Modern kids can access millions of songs instantly, but they'll never understand the discovery and community that came from spending an afternoon in a record store. Hitchhiking during the 1970s was surprisingly common and socially acceptable, something that would terrify parents today. It was normal to see people thumbing rides on roadsides, and drivers often stopped to help fellow travelers. There was a sense of camaraderie on the open road that's hard to understand today. College students routinely hitchhiked between campuses. Service members in uniform could almost always count on getting rides from patriotic drivers. The practice had an unwritten code of conduct. Hitchhikers were polite and grateful, while drivers felt good about helping someone in need. It was community cooperation rather than dangerous risk-taking. Sure, there were risks, but that was considered part of life's adventure, rather than reason to avoid hitchhiking entirely. Today, hitchhiking is illegal in many places and considered extremely risky. Modern kids with ride-sharing apps will never understand the freedom and trust that made hitchhiking normal transportation. Men in the 1970s had a distinct style that screamed confidence: thick mustaches, serious sideburns, and hair that defied gravity. The grooming routine was serious business. Men spent real time on their appearance, using aftershave that announced their presence from across the room. The goal was the macho look, combining ruggedness with careful attention to detail. Fashion choices were bold and unapologetic. Shirts were often left partially unbuttoned to show off chest hair, which was considered peak masculinity. Colors were vibrant, patterns were loud. The mustache was particularly important. It wasn't just facial hair, it was a symbol of maturity. From Tom Selleck to the Village People, mustaches defined the decade's masculine ideal. Modern kids will never understand the time, effort, and pride that went into achieving that distinctly 1970s masculine swagger. Ladies had their own arsenal of beauty products that defined the decade's look and scent. Sun-In was the holy grail for achieving sun-kissed highlights. Women would spray it into their hair and head outside, hoping for golden locks. Sometimes you got beautiful highlights, sometimes orange streaks. Nothing defined 1970s femininity like Love's Baby Soft perfume. That sweet, youthful fragrance was everywhere, creating a signature scent that instantly transports people back to the decade. These products weren't just about beauty, they were about identity. Your choice of fragrance communicated who you were and what group you belonged to. Modern kids with their natural beauty movements will never understand the bold, experimental approach to beauty that defined 1970s style. When the kitchen phone rang in the 1970s, you always answered it because you had no idea who was calling. No caller ID, no screening calls, no voicemail. When that phone rang, someone picked it up, creating genuine surprise with every call. You might settle in for a long conversation, getting twisted up in that spiral phone cord, or you'd yell across the house, "Mom, phone's for you." Wrong numbers were common, leading to awkward conversations with strangers. Prank calls were regular annoyances. Families just accepted. Modern kids who can see exactly who's calling will never understand the genuine surprise and social obligation that came with answering every phone call. Capturing moments required a Polaroid camera, the magical device that instantly developed pictures before your eyes. You'd press the button, hear the mechanical whir, and watch as a blank square emerged. Then came the waiting and shaking. Even though shaking didn't help, everyone did it anyway. Each picture was precious because film was expensive and limited. You had to be selective, making every shot count. There was no deleting bad pictures. Photo booths were strategically placed where teenagers gathered. Arcades, malls, roller rinks. Friends would squeeze in, making goofy faces and capturing memories in strips of 4 photos. Modern kids with unlimited digital photos will never understand the excitement and preciousness that came with instant film photography. Remember when television actually ended? Every night around midnight, TV stations would literally stop broadcasting. You'd be watching late-night movies when suddenly the screen would cut to a test pattern. Those colorful bars accompanied by a high-pitched tone that meant, "Go to bed." Some stations played the national anthem before signing off. Others just cut to static, that black and white snow that filled the screen until morning. If you fell asleep with the TV on, you'd wake up to loud static and scramble to turn it off. There was number 24-hour programming, just, well, nothing. Modern kids with 24/7 streaming will never understand television actually ending each night. Saturday morning cartoons weren't complete without sugary cereal, and the real excitement came from the prize inside the box. Kids begged for specific cereals not because of taste, but because of the toy hidden inside. Finding that prize was like discovering buried treasure. The hunt began as soon as you got home from the store. You'd carefully dig through cereal trying to find the prize without making a mess. Sometimes the prize was at the very bottom, meaning you had to eat through the entire box. The prizes weren't elaborate, maybe a plastic whistle or a small toy, but they made breakfast feel special. Modern kids with elaborate toys will never understand the simple joy of finding a small plastic treasure in their cereal box. When you needed to make a call away from home, you had to find a payphone and hope you had the right change. You'd step into that glass booth, drop your dime, and dial on that heavy rotary dial. Running out of change mid-conversation meant your call got cut off. No exceptions. Collect calls were a teenage lifeline. You have a collect call from mom. Pick me up at the mall. Will you accept the charges? Modern kids with phones in their pockets will never understand the planning required just to make a simple phone call away from home. These 12 experiences capture what made growing up in the 1970s so unique. It was a time when life moved slower, choices were limited, and kids had to be more creative and patient. From waiting for favorite TV shows to carefully crafting mixtapes, the 1970s taught patience and made simple pleasures feel special. While modern kids have incredible advantages, they've missed out on the anticipation, creativity, and simple joys that defined 1970s childhood. Which of these experiences brings back the strongest memories for you? Share your stories in the comments below, and subscribe to Vintage America Tales for more glimpses into the America we used to know.